So for our handsome Mr. Kugel, we're going to work a little bit with leave-its. So a leave-it behavior or cue is working with your babe realizing that something is off limits. I like to do leave-its as in leave it forever. So some folks have done leave it as in hold back and then go grab the thing. I find for some dogs that seems a bit confusing. So for me, leave-its are always off-limits items. Right now I'm just warming him up with some find-its just to get him moving while I'm blabbing. So leave-its, for example, if you have done them as in leave that thing alone until I say it's okay to go grab it, the reason I don't love to work it that way is what if you get in the habit of telling them leave it and then they go and get told to go ahead and grab the item? Your babe may, out of habit, assume that every leave it is then potentially okay to go consume or play with. So they may, out of excitement, jump the gun and then go right to grabbing for the item, but maybe that was an item they should have never touched or handled or played with their mouths. So let's say, for example, we've at times told them leave it, put a treat down or a dog food item or a toy down, and then release them to go grab that item. What I find can happen the next time you drop something they're not supposed to have, maybe you drop pills or you drop something that's dangerous or toxic and you say leave it, your dog might leave it initially, but then think, you know what, maybe I'll go try it anyway because they always tend to release me to go grab that item and inhale it, eat it, or check it out. So for your babes, I find the easiest is to make it very simplistic. So for my guys, leave it means ignore, disengage, don't interact, and definitely don't play with it with your mouth. If I wanted my dog to hold back and then go and grab something after the fact, or when I tell them it's time to go do so, that's where I would use my wait behavior. So wait is where the dog is holding back physically. You would tell them to hold back with that wait cue. And then when it's time, you could say their name and either tell them to go retrieve the item or release them in some way. And that way you're letting them hold back, but then the relinquishing or sort of the release of the position is with you cueing them to go grab that thing or come to you. So with leave-its, these will always be off limits. So I'm going to go grab a couple no-no items, which typically tend to be trash-based. So for example, paper towels, toilet paper roll, maybe there's also a plastic water bottle or some sort of bottle. And these items, if there's ever an item though that he's allowed to play with and I might have used it as a leave it, remember that it doesn't have to be the leave it cue if it's something they're gonna go play with later. So that would be, let's say for example, he's allowed to play with water bottles for recycling's sake there. He's allowed to go crunch on them and play with them. If a water bottle is an acceptable item for him, if it was ever down on the ground, you wouldn't necessarily say leave it. You might do name recognition. You might do a little check-in with the little positive interrupter, which would be that little kissy noise. So that way your babe starts to realize that, again, if something is a leave it, it's always unattainable. If by accident you have done leave its where your pup, oh my gosh, chewing, where your pup has, oh goodness, get it out there. There we go. You almost got it. Good job. So if your babe, for example, has done leave its where you're squealing leave it and they already have the sock in their mouth and they're frolicking with it, you may be losing out on the meaning behind what leave it will actually mean for later or in that moment. So if it's already in their mouth, that's going to be a drop it, give, or out exercise where your dog is learning that letting go of something still has value and that releasing things is a good idea. So if the only time you're working on drop it though is when your dog is constantly grabbing things they shouldn't, I would highly recommend check out the toy exchange game with some of the previous dogs that have come to the Doggy Day School program. And the reason I recommend the toy exchange game is that gets your babe in the habit of letting go of something, and letting go doesn't equal the end of the fun or the end of that game. Because if every time we say drop it, it means we're taking the thing from you. Drop it starts to equal I'm about to swipe it out of your mouth. And then it might be, again, you become the end or the bringer of the end of the fun or the confrontation setup as well. So I'm going to grab his leash. I'm going to plop out a few leave it items. We might start with one item at a time and build up. Just depends on how comfortable he's feeling. So I'm going to grab his leash and then set up the bubble with some leave it items. So I'm going to grab some things that I would typically assume would be trash items for him. But remember, if there's certain things at home he's struggling with, like slippers or household items, remember that his developmental sort of age group, for example, is equivalent to like a 2 to 3 year old toddler, like human child. So this doesn't mean he instantly understands language the way we as humans do. But I would recommend that if he is failing, which means he's constantly swiping things and putting them into his mouth, that we want to create those puppy or young adult safe bubbles for our dogs. If they're constantly grabbing the thing and being told no and chasing them around, remember that any behavior that is being reinforced, even from his perspective, he might think it's something you want him to do again. So remember, dogs grow into behavior, not out of behavior. So if you're finding he's constantly swiping for slippers and going for household items, we want to prevent the rehearsal of that through management of the environment or prevention of him even getting to those things. So sometimes putting away shoes in a bin, putting things away in the closet, making sure we have baby gates or corralled sections, or even using crates or whatever your dog is comfortable using, so we can manage the environment and set them up for success. So I'm gonna grab some of my no-no items. So for starters, I might grab, let's say, a tissue, which is again a paper towel. So when you're working this all by yourself, I like to, so it doesn't get too confusing to the dog, is I will sometimes distract the dog with a little find it off in the distance, plop my item out in the environment if I didn't preemptively plop the thing down before practicing. And I like to start off my dog on gear first. So typically if your babe, ready, sir? If your pup doesn't know what a leave it is, you first want to warm up with the leave it item off to the side, far enough away where your dog can't reach it. So let's say right here he sees it. I'm going to go leave it, and then yes, and feed for that. So I typically either like to walk near it, sort of parallel, so up against it, almost like an equal sign, or approach it and then disengage from there. So right here, yes. So that moment he approached and then on his own turned to head my direction, I'm going to feed him for those lovely responses. So remember, he could be working left or right on your body, whichever side you feel is more comfortable, but I'm gonna only let him get close enough to notice the thing and feed for that. If your babe, for example, notices the item and on their own disengages, which means they come to check in with you, feed them for those moments where they'd rather hone in on you versus the distraction. So right here, I'm feeding him for all those great moments being next to me. So we're also reinforcing the loose leash walking, while also potentially working with this leave it. So I'm going to approach the item. He could care less, feed for that. Because remember, you're creating value in the behaviors you'd rather have him participate in for later down the road. Oh my goodness, your kibble is maybe too hard for you to chew. So, because we're working with some leave its. So my little one was asking, why is there a tissue on the floor? So let's say again, I'm going to plop out another leave it item. So I'm just going to put, again, the food off to the side to keep him busy. If my dog was in a different bubble, you could plant a few, again, booby traps of no items. Right here, I'm going to go leave it. And then if, let's say there's no response, but that was beautiful. If he didn't respond to the L word, like the leave it exercise, I would go ahead, ready? Oh, find it. I'd go ahead. You what? That's okay. You can put it in the trash, my lovey. My little one's having her snack and she says she dropped one of them. So I said she can just plop it in the trash. No big deal. So for Mr. K, ready? Right here, just positive interrupt to regain his attention for my little one. I'm going to move him towards the no-no right here. Leave it. Yes. If, let's say, he didn't respond to leave it, I would use his name. Or if he responds really well to that kissy noise, I would use that in a moment to try and get that attention back. So right now, as we're practicing, if let's say he's doing really well right here, leave it. Yes. Oh my goodness, chewing those kibbles. So I know we have a little bit of a trail mix of some of his stuff from home. Some of them are easier to chew than others. And if they're a little dry, they don't go down all the way. So again, we're going to try moving towards the item right there. Yes. So he watched it, but then decided, you know what? It's probably cooler to go check in with the crazy snack lady than to go and check out the no item. So I'm going to again try and move towards my leave it items. Right there, yes, great decision making. So if your dog on his own or her own decides, you know what, it might be cooler to check in, I like to jackpot moments where I'm very excited about the behavior or the skill set my dog is offering. So a jackpot, again, is to feed several snacks one after the other to build up value in doing that thing that your dog may have just given you for a skill set or, again, behavior. So right here, we're going to walk by the no item. Beautiful. If, let's say, oh crud, I got too close, and let's say he went and grabbed for the leave it item and it went into his mouth, we tend to panic. So let's say, again, here we are, we're going to walk by the leave it. oh no, what if my dog goes and puts it in his mouth? This is where I'd go, ready? And I'd go right into my kissy noise, do a find it off to the side, and get him to relinquish the item to then move on to the other, again, behavior I'd prefer. Ready? Which could be a little bit with that check-in. So I'm going to replant the item one more time so we can try that again. So for example, let's say, oh no, I got too close and my dog swiped the sock or the slipper or the baseball cap or whatever you're practicing with. And now, don't mind the big loud truck, and now my dog has the thing in his mouth. Remember with the toy exchange game, the reason why, ready? We're just doing a couple finds just to keep him busy, is the reason the toy exchange game is so crucial is that if your babe always thinks that you coming near them equals the end of fun or a confrontation moment or where you swipe the goods, your dog may then with things they can and can't have a hard time letting go. So the benefit of the toy exchange game is your babe is practicing letting go of things they can have without confrontation and building a good association with the let go. So that way when they grab something they shouldn't, they know that letting go is not going to be the end of the world or spooky or confrontational or a little scary. So I'm going to, again, go closer to my no-no item. Let's say, oh no, we might go yes. And then I could do my little kissy noise as my positive interrupter, which is sometimes my go-to dance move as opposed to trying to think of other skills at the moment. So some babes have such a nice association with that kissy noise as a check-in that they will do those instead. So right here, yes, and I could get his attention. You could, of course, just simply say the L word. So right here, leave it. Oh, he says, hold on, there's a crumb he missed. Yes, nice, and feed for that lovely moment of ignoring it. If, again, your babe is not to the level where you can walk past something without them hoovering the item and trying to swallow it, remember that some dogs have a harder time with certain items. If your dog is really having a rough time with paper towels or paper products, I wouldn't go into using those as your instant setup. I would go ahead and work with something that was big enough that you could easily keep the pup from swallowing it. There are some babes, though, remember, if you're struggling with resource guarding, if you're struggling with a dog that's gulping things or might even by accident swallow an item whole, you definitely want to start at the bigger end of items so it's not so hard for them. It's time to relax. Ready? You're getting exhausted. So obviously sometimes when I get these little moments where he goes and relaxes, I'm going to capture these behaviors too because I want him to think that there's value and also taking a break and maybe vegging near these harder leave-it items. So, but if leave-its turn into you squealing as they grab the inappropriate item, you want to be careful of giving your pup positive or negative reinforcement because at times, even though we might get agitated chasing them around for grabbing that thing, your pup is still going to think there's a lot of value in you coming and chasing them around the environment because finally you're paying attention to them. Or it turns into a really fun game. Dogs love keep away, which is where you're chasing them to either catch them or catch them with something. So keep away is a really fun play style, but it can be very dangerous if your dog has also got an item and then is now trying to consume it or swallow it while you're kind of trying to catch them. So your best bet is have some treat stations and make it where while your babe is sometimes promote those moments where they're being successful or help them choose the better skill. So if let's say again, oh gosh, maybe we'll try again. So I don't know if he wants to try, is we might get up and go close. We might go again, beautiful, and feed for that little moment. I don't know if we were out of camera range because we might have gotten a little too close, but he actually walked right over the leave it items and didn't go to grab them. But we want to practice sometimes having it where maybe he does go and engage with the item and we make it more fun for letting go than to grab the thing in the first place. Remember that if, again, some of his needs are not being met, so every dog, again, will have a different variety of skills and play methods that they prefer. So some dogs love playing tug, others love the flirt pole, some might love interactive play with you. So everybody's dogs are a little different. Some even like fetch. Fetch, again, is kind of like a little bit of a hot topic right now in the dog world because fetch can be something that can be overused, and sometimes the way it's set up can be a lot of really fast movement with jostling, stopping, and changing of direction from the pup. And that's where for some dogs it can lead to joint issues or ligament damage and even injuries. So, but also remember, any type of play you're doing with your dog should be play that is helping fuel confidence, enrichment, and fun, but not necessarily fuel, let's say, for example, over arousal to the point where the dog can't function, or to the point where your dog is physically almost injuring themselves to play it over and over. So repetitive play can be dangerous for your babe and can also become more OCD or compulsive issues for down the road. So I think anytime you're playing with your dog, it should be play that seems healthy for both the dog and for the family as well. So fetching is fine, but you want to be careful with how you do it, how often, to the intensity you're playing, and how is my dog's body handling it, as well as their mental capabilities. So if there's not much for traction, then the problem with using fetch is your dog could injure themselves in the process of playing the game. So just be careful with how you're working certain skills and how you're working your babe, oh my goodness, chewing, through some of that play dynamic. If again, you're unsure as to what would be appropriate, you can always check in. Remember that again, a lot of times the way we like to engage with our dogs can sometimes just be a little confusing. So we just want to make sure that he understands where we're coming from and vice versa. But for his stay at the doggy day school, he did such a great job. He was a pleasure to work with, and obviously so were our two ladies, but they couldn't make it today, and they were only doing the two sessions, and he did all three. So, but I know we were mentioning, if he'd like to continue again and do another round, you can always feel free to do as much or as little as you'd like. We may find too that potentially doing like a beginner class with him and with you as another great way to build up his ability, but also in that safe and structured environment with other families and other dogs working on similar skill sets and tasks. Because again, he's a lovely little gentleman. And you may find that the beginner class is another great way to take these skills that we've been practicing and now apply the dance moves to you guys as partners. But keep up the great work with Mr. K. He really is a splendid little man. And again, enjoy him because he's a great guy. So we'll give him a little break. He'll do a little find it, and we'll give him a little rest period.